Our team also talked about what concrete steps this government must take to fight racism and build a more inclusive Canada.
I was just about to bitch about the white bitch at the fucking dollar store again!
Discrimination and violence are a lived reality for far too many Canadians.
I don't understand why you won't let me touch you. I don't have to let you touch me! It's because you're wearing latex gloves? No. It means you can't use hand sanitizer. Nope, nothing to do with COVID. I can't get your fucking germs or exhaust in your mouth. Oh my God. Fuck you. And that's not racist. Fuck you. Your white doctor is sick. All of a sudden, my disability don't matter.
Resources for Black youth and work to close the gaps in services for Indigenous
Jesuit
communities.
news,
And we
Jesuit
now have
news,
Canada's
Jesuit news.
anti-racism strategy, which has begun its work to change the way we do things and break down barriers. We've made progress, but it's nowhere near enough. So Cabinet has put together a work plan for the summer months. Our goal is to come up with strong policies that will help eliminate barriers facing Indigenous peoples, racialized people, and persons with disabilities.
Okay, give us
Minister
back our
Lametti
trust account.
is working on justice reforms. Minister Blair is focused on modernizing policing structures and updating standards regarding the use of force. Ministers Baines and Ng are looking at improving access to capital and
Do I have to home invade your house again, you stupid fuck? Give us back our trust accounts like the Supreme Court said, stupid, 6 fucking years ago. Are you fucking retarded? You think because your cops are stopping us from rebroadcasting this shit? I didn't hear the first 10 minutes.
Legislative framework which recognizes First Nations policing as an essential service and expands the number
I'm
of
essential now.
communities served by
Thank
First
you.
Nations policing.
Niggas
We
said
have our work cut out
canned
for us.
meatballs and sardines will live forever.
Fighting systemic racism, unconscious bias, and
There's
discrimination
no such
is
thing as
a top
unconscious
priority
bias
for
when
our
you keep
government.
calling us
We will
niggers.
continue to listen and work with communities and
Everybody,
allies.
tell them
to
her
build
joy
better
do it.
Canada.
Your snitch is not going to make it through the
I want to
weekend.
end today by congratulating Bob Rae on his appointment
Oh.
as Canada's ambassador to the United Nations.
Good, because he hasn't done
Ambassador
shit
Rae
in
has
15 years
dedicated
or
his
so.
life to serving Canada, most recently as Canada's special envoy on humanitarian and refugee issues, and before that,
So how is
as
he going to
Canada's
answer
special
Iran,
envoy
Saudi
to
Arabia, and
Myanmar.
North Korea
In
about
these
Canada?
roles, he worked closely with the UN and the international community to help lead Canada's humanitarian efforts. I know he will build on the work of Ambassador Marc-André Blanchard and defend our interests and our values with integrity. Je tiens aussi à remercier l'ambassadeur Blanchard pour ses nombreuses années de service. And you've been listening to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau in his daily briefing here on 680 News. The Prime Minister confirming that the economic update will come this afternoon, essentially saying that while the cost of helping Canadians has certainly been tremendous, the cost of not
He's actually giving us numbers, so you interrupt me.
now is not the time for austerity, as the opposition parties have been suggesting, saying that 11 million Canadians have taken advantage of financial aid, and the country is well positioned to bounce back as the economy begins to reopen. We'll have more on the Prime Minister have to say coming up at 11:30. This is 680 News.
680 News Time, 11:21.
Are you fucking
Traffic
serious?
and weather together on the ones. Here's Zach Bogenstein. This report's brought to you by T.
Fucking hell. You gotta be fucking kidding.
Last month.
In the left lane as well, but that is scheduled to wrap up for about 2 o'clock.
Fucking kidding me.
And the West 401 gets.
We have a deficit of 300 billion, but our credit is better than any other country in the G7, which means any other country in the G8, G20, any of it, our credit's better than, so. Because we don't buy Chinese sardines up in this bitch. We pay $1.50 and get Canadian. I don't know what I rush back up here for. I want to eat the soy oil because there's fish oil in it, but it's soy, so it's garbage, so I can't. It just defeats the purpose. Oh, because soy is so useful. We're going to sell it to the Chinese. That's how smart we are. Damn, I feel like I wasted my time. Ugh. He's not even noon.
The price tag for emergency aid, with the Prime Minister saying that it is better to spend than not to spend, especially when it comes to helping Canadians. We'll have a full rundown on the Prime Minister's
government took on the debt, so Canadians
and we'll also have the latest COVID-19 numbers across this province. 680's Irene Precklett will have some good news on that front on the way.
680 News Time 11:23.
It is hard to be upbeat if this crisis has made your debt unmanageable. But there is hope. Hear how Canadians have recovered from overwhelming debt.
Oh, I was stuck at the lowest point in my life.
Oh yeah, we weren't done with
financially,
fucking South Africa yet. Damn it.
Together with Farber, I took control of my debt. They saved me.
Oh yeah, the whole screen
Farber,
just
licensed
white.
insolvency trustees, have helped over 100,000
Oh yeah, I was going to
Canadians
point out,
get
all those
out of
people
debt.
in that
Visit
women's hostel, they're all
payfarber.com
white.
to book a free phone or video consultation.
Oh yeah, it's real easy to go, who gives a fuck about some third world shithole nigger country, right? All the homeless people are white.
Is 680 News.
You better look up class warfare if
And
you
this
think
portion
it's
of
going to
680
go your
News
way.
for the Herzig Eye Institute. Firefighters have
Thanks,
rescued a
man.
man who fell 25 feet down the Scarborough Bluffs this morning. They got called out to the senior
Only
Midland and
25 feet,
Kingston
broke
Road
two
around
bones, you only got
6:30, but the
25
man may have been there since about 2 o'clock this morning. Can't tell you the victim suffered a leg injury in that one. Police are reminding people of the bluffs, though, to stay back from the
Yeah,
cliff
by
edge.
the way, you can scream all you want. The sound's going this way, and the buildings are
Signs are showing that
longer this way.
markets are coming off their highs
Ain't
for
nobody
the
hearing
day today.
shit
Chris
over there.
McCusker will have those
Somebody
details
get
just
tossed
ahead.
off there, the car rolls off.
Hi, I'm Cherry Dab, co-founder of the Herzig Eye Institute, announcing full patient care has resumed. While we were closed, we instituted new technology that removes clean air through our entire facility. Google high definition vision. Watch a video.
Are you on
explaining
fucking
all our
drugs?
safety
Did you
measures.
just advertise that your laser eye clinic in
There's no
2020 has finally
Herzig Eye
upgraded to
Institute
HEPA
is
filters?
prepared
Oh
and
wow.
protected. Look after
Yeah,
yourself.
those have been around 25 years or more. Wow. They do 3 surgeries a month.
HSBC is offering a
Wow.
low mortgage
That's right. The guy that did my surgery did 50,000 before mine.
Canada's lowest
No
switch
problem.
rate.
Even lower.
Get 2.14% on a 5-year fixed rate mortgage with HSBC's quick close switch offer.
Whoa, that is low.
HSBC Bank. Together we thrive. Rates subject to change without notice. Application must be funded within 60 days of the application start date. Visit hsbc.ca/mortgage for details.
680 News Time 11:26.
Now to the 680 News Business Report. We'll check in at the Business Center with Chris McCusker. Just giving on the markets this morning and so far.
Yeah, and that is a technical term.
I believe that is. I know.
We did have a winning start to the day, Steve. Now we've got a mixed picture on Bay and Wall Street. The Dow is
Yeah, if
down
you could just
68
buy the
points.
whole market
The S&P
throughout
up
the
by
day and
6,
sell it, that
and
would
the
make
Nasdaq
sense.
higher by 10. Now the Nasdaq did get close to a record. Didn't quite get there after several record-breaking days. We've got shares in Levi's firmly in the red. That stock down 8% to $12.69. The
You know
company
what?
reported second quarter earnings, which technically did beat
Yeah, I
analysts'
give a fuck
estimates.
about. I know
Net
you're a
revenue,
porn
though,
spam bot. I
was
don't give a
down
fuck.
by
How is your day? Keep
62%
saying
compared
weird,
to the
random
same
greetings
period
in
last year.
English.
The company also
And maybe
cutting
somebody who
700
speaks English
jobs
might
in an effort
click
to
on a
reduce
link, right?
costs.
So the answer is no.
Says the
No,
rest
I'm
of
not going to. I'm
2020 could be
francophone,
tough.
first of all.
It expects
Fucking
business
moron.
will be
And,
adversely
but you didn't even
impacted
check the
going
fucking
forward.
description, nothing.
Now,
We're
on
just
this
randomly
side of the
clicking,
border,
and you're
the
going to
federal
hack
government
away.
expected to
You're about as good as
detail
the
the deficit
CSIS, CSE, and the RCMP and the
in
TPS. You know
response to
that?
the COVID-19 pandemic. And the
Go find somebody else's
parliamentary
dick to
budget
suck,
office
stupid,
says
because
the
I know it's a
deficit
dude behind the
could be
account anyway.
252
No,
billion.
XXX is blocked out. 6'9" is blocked out.
Montreal.
6'9" is blocked out.
Necessary to
XXX
avoid
6'9",
something
but XX6767 is
worse
not.
for the economy. But that doesn't give Ottawa a completely free pass just to spend at will. I think they still have to be very judicious in terms of how they spend. And I think increasingly as the economy begins to recover, it's important for all of us to now start to question exactly how they're spending it.
Now, the Canadian dollar is higher by 27,100, 73.78 cents U.S. Ahead of this, although we are seeing pressure on the U.S. dollar today, the TSX did start the day higher. Now it's down 57 points. 15,537. The gold stocks helping to offset the losses.
with the price for gold still close to this 9-year high. Right now it's up $13 to $18.23, and then oil is down 4 cents, $40.58. The latest supply data in the U.S. did show a build of 5.7 million barrels last week, a bit of a surprise, given that it was down 7.2 million barrels.
Seen at the airport with no mask.
I'm Chris McCusker. This is 680 News.
Walmart is now rolling back prices on thousands of everyday essential items to help your family stretch every dollar. Save 50 cents on a bottle of palm olive dishwashing liquid. Now only $1.77. See flyer for product details.
Because of one of these
Walmart. Save
podcasts.
money, live better.
Marineland is getting ready for their 2020
You're still giving
season
random
to provide
English
a safe,
statements.
fun outdoor experience for the whole family to enjoy, with wide open spaces, rides for the kids,
I don't give a fuck about
exciting
subscribers.
animal exhibits, and great spots.
You would
for
know
families
that if
to
you
picnic.
subscribe for real,
Marineland
but you're telling me
has it
now,
all.
just in case I didn't see it.
Can't
You
wait
the fuck
to
up.
see your family having fun at the park this summer. Visit marineland.ca to learn more about the reopening plans for 2020.
Explain what to you? You haven't asked me a fucking question yet. Why should I explain anything to you? I never called you anything. I'm American, stupid. You fucking
The heat
moron.
warning does continue in the GTA with a mix of sunny
By
clouds
treaty.
expected for this afternoon. There is a slight chance you might see some road
You're about to tell me I'm not in Canada too, right? You didn't even fucking hover over, but you're a subscriber.
For tonight, fairly clear, a low
busy
down
with
to
South
just
Africa right
23
now.
degrees. Sunshine sticking around for tomorrow and a high of 35. And then a mix of sun and cloud on Friday and a high of 33. Right now in downtown Toronto, we got plenty of sunshine. We got the temperature right now of 28, feeling more like 34. 680 News Time coming up with the double tones. 11:30. Number 1 for news. And Steve Robert. Will reportedly be more than $300 billion. The record red ink is expected when the Trudeau government releases its COVID-19 economic snapshot.
For 6 months into the year.
Heading out in the GTA will be masking up when inside as more communities make them mandatory. This as the number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in Ontario remains in the 100s.
Victory says the TTC is going to collect gas when it comes to building the priority bus lanes, accelerating the project, beginning with the ones on Eglinton East and Scarborough.
The MLS is back tonight with the tournament opener at 8 and the NHLPA membership gears up for a vote. Sports at 45.
We've now got a mixed picture today in Wall Street after a winning start to the day, and our loonie moved higher ahead of the federal financial snapshot. Business at 56.
680 News Time, 11:31.
Time for traffic and weather together all at once. Here's Zach Bogenstein.
Well, we're getting busier out there, mixing a couple of problems, and things are really slow in a bunch of areas. We have the eastbound 401 busy through Mississauga Road, then from the 427 to Weston Express and Collectors. Still a vehicle east of the 400 Express that's blocking the right lane, so delays.
We've got backed up traffic on the M47 freeway heading south from Durban, and that's due to an ongoing accident seen before the NG Highway near the Umlazi turnoff. In Phoenix, we do have an accident scene which just took place on Palm Drive. Palmview Drive, excuse me. It's opposite the Palmview Primary School. Emergency services are currently attending to both scenes. Still in the region of Phoenix, we have continued backlog on the R182 and the M41 westbound. And we ended up with ongoing congestion on Richmond Road southbound heading towards Wilshire Road. You can expect an 11-minute delay on the route. For the East Coast Radio Traffic Team, I am
Why is America falling apart?
Report traffic now.
How am I supposed to explain to you why America's falling apart if you don't know? Okay, so we're gonna go through this over and fucking over all fucking day. Okay, so first of all, the idiot fucking pinging the router probably is American. So okay, if you ain't gonna explain shit to me, what is the reason you're streaming? Apostrophe and the letter E, bro. Doesn't matter. I'm streaming because it's easier than recording and uploading later. Why is America falling apart, comma, moron? Well, if you're not American, why do you care? And if you study it, how come you don't know? I didn't claim to be teaching anybody about why America's falling apart. I said I'm U.S. Army. American by treaty. You're not listening. Do you make your own music? And what's your opinion? Look at all these fucking, these are all bullshit fucking things. They're just trying to get attention. So I'm just going to let these play through in reverse order, because one of these will end up being the doctor telling us all the important shit about COVID-19, which is what I was going for.
Bound after the Richmond Road turnoff. It's on the first bend, situated in the middle lane. Please ensure that you are approaching it with care. And just to give you an update on the previous accident scenes, which we had on the R102 as well as on the M41 in Phoenix, both scenes have cleared. However, traffic is still present on both routes. So you do want to add some extra travel time. Now, if you are using the R102, making your way towards the Phoenix Highway, you can expect a 14-minute delay. And we're ending it off with ongoing backlog on the N3 to Durban at the Marion Hill Toll Plaza. For the East Coast Radio Traffic Team, I'm Bushita Drow.
Report traffic now. Call 031 566 353. On FM, on the station app, and on DSTV channel 836. This is East Coast Radio. Newswatch.
Health Minister William Kizze says South Africa's COVID-19 peak is expected to be at the end of July to mid-August at a lower than previously projected level. Briefing Parliament this afternoon, he said it meant fewer people were infected in May and June than was previously predicted. Apologies for the sound quality.
What the fuck is your question? You're just randomly picking up words and responding.
Hospital and non-ICU and ICU beds at baseline level. Bed capacity is still expected to be reached or overwhelmed in all the provinces. Currently, planned hospital beds in the Eastern Cape and Gauteng are projected to be insufficient for combined non-ICU bed demand and the overflow of ICU once ICU capacity has been reached. Bed capacity, including all currently committed public and private sector beds, is expected to be reached in the next 4 weeks.
He says the department has a coronavirus surge strategy in place in anticipation of the peak. The ANC in the province says the death of their spokesperson has left them in shock and pain. Ricardo Mthembu, who was also the former mayor of Guadalupe, died from COVID-19 complications earlier today. It's understood he was admitted to a North Coast hospital several days ago. He'd been in ICU when he lost his battle with the disease. ANC Provincial Secretary Mdumiseni Nduli says to them, he wasn't just a party spokesperson.
He was also a great comrade that were indeed very, very pained and deeply sad that indirectly the ongoing war against coronavirus has robbed us an outstanding son of our people.
Mthembu, who was also a member of the provincial legislature, served as the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs. Eskom says its generator system is severely constrained after 2 units at the Kendall and Tutuga power stations in Mpumalanga tripped. It's asking us to reduce our electricity use as technicians work on returning the units to service. Yesterday, the Medupi power station in Limpopo also experienced a fault. Eskom says while it's back in operation, the system is still under threat. Spokesperson Sikunati Mantanza says the system may be under pressure for several days.
We request the people of South Africa to cooperate and reduce demand in order to help us supply the country's demand through the peak periods between 5 p.m. and 9 p.m. This constrained supply situation may persist throughout the week through the weekend.
And in the UK, fire crews are working to free people who are trapped under a 20-meter crane collapsed onto a terraced house. It's happened at a construction site in Bow in the east of London. Durban, Pietermaritzburg and Richards Bay, 26 degrees today. The top story, Health Minister Willem Kizze says South Africa's COVID-19 peak is expected to be at the end of July to mid-August at a lower level than previously projected. There'll be headlines at 5:30.
Coming up in your sport, England making slow progress at the Ageas Bowl. They're currently 21-1. The Ryder Cup officially postponed until 2021. And world number 1 Novak Djokovic still unsure whether he'll play in the US Open.
I got an exclamation point. Okay, no. Okay, well, I guess it means we can skip to this one. Because I don't care about your fat husband.
FM, online, and on your smart speaker. This is East Coast Radio.
Radio.
Eskom says its generator system is severely constrained after 2 units at the Kendal and Tutuga power stations in Mpumalanga tripped. It's asking us to reduce our electricity use as technicians work on returning the units to service. Yesterday, the Medupi power station in Limpopo also experienced a fault. Eskom says while it's back in operation, the system is still under threat. Spokesperson Sukunati Mantanza says the system may be under pressure for several days.
First, to the people of South Africa to cooperate and reduce demand in order to help us supply the country's demand through the peak periods between 5 p.m. and 9 p.m. This constrained supply situation may persist throughout the week through the weekend. We request the public to reduce electricity usage. Eskom teams are hard at work trying to return the broken generation units to service.
Western Cape Premier Alan Winde has COVID-19. He's shared the news on Twitter.
I experienced some flu-like symptoms over the weekend, isolated myself, went for a test on Monday, and just received the results being positive. I will now be isolating myself for the further 14 days, as is required. I am a type 2 diabetic, which means that I must also be extra vigilant. And it's the message that we send to everybody. When you have a comorbidity, please, you must be extra vigilant during this time.
DA interim leader John Steenhuisen says during this COVID-19 pandemic, there's been no leadership from the one man who matters. He's accused President Cyril Ramaphosa of being just a mere spectator as the impact of the public health emergency takes its toll. Steenhuisen gave an address today saying there was an ongoing leadership crisis in South Africa.
Throughout all of this, as rogue ministers of the National Command Council compounded our problems with petty regulations, as our hospitals filled up and our economy imploded, President Ramaphosa has been little more than a spectator. We needed someone to step up, to take charge. But what we got was a president obsessed with dialogues, reaching out and building consensus. And this has been the very story of this presidency to date. A lot of talk, a lot of promises, but very little action or leadership.
I don't want him to do much. He looks scared.
And nearly 50 million Africans could be driven into extreme poverty in the economic fallout of the coronavirus pandemic. This is according to the African Development Bank. It says roughly a third of the continent is already expected to live below the international poverty line of $1.90 per day in 2020, and forecasts the situation will further deteriorate. The bank expects Africa to suffer a major recession, with GDP forecast to contract between 1.7% to 3.4% this year. Durban, Pietermaritzburg and Richards Bay, 26 degrees tomorrow. Your top story, Eskom says its generator system is severely constrained after 2 units in Mpumalanga tripped. Log on to ecr.co.za for more news.
Coming up in your sport, rain plays havoc with the start of the first test between England and the West Indies. Hilton Moreng is retained as Proteas women's coach, and Brad Binder excited to make his MotoGP debut soon.
Hi KZN, this is Cindy from Absolute Health, and this is my advice to Anonymous. In my experience, in order to see lasting change, the decision needs to come from your spouse. You can't do it for him. The desire to change needs to come from him. He needs to do the work. It's his body, it's his health, and the decision needs to come from him. I've seen this so many times in my coaching practice, where the spouse is so desperate for their husbands to change, and they'll do everything for them, and it just doesn't seem to last. It's because the decision needs to come from them. Change is terrifying. A lot of people are resistant to it. It's uncomfortable. So my suggestion would be more of a long-term easing into a healthier lifestyle, rather than cutting out food groups and cutting out sugar and changing dairy for almond milk. And it's too drastic a change. People are resistant. So what I suggest you do is sit down with him and ask him what he'd be happy to change. Perhaps it would be adding an extra portion of veg this week. So every day he adds an extra portion of veg. Next week, work on something else. Maybe the correct portion size of protein. And then the following week, maybe adding an extra 2 glasses of water. When it comes to changing your diet, it's easier to add than to take away. So start adding first. So add the extra veg, add the extra water, and slowly, he'll start feeling better. He'll be more open to changing other things.
Why? No, it's backwards. CY.
You think about this thing about beating a friend drivers. Some of us are not trying to take the job, South African jobs. Some of us are refugees. Working is a part of living. We have no support from the government, for any government, before we come from, because we came here as refugees. So we have to work. We're not trying to take anybody's job. We're just trying to survive like you guys.
9 years experience mina ma-trucking hlezi phansi angenzile utho-ke manje umsebenzi wami uthathwe ibonela abantu bangaphandle 9 years.
49 years.
On FM, online, and on your smart speaker. This is East Coast Radio. Newswatch.
Western Cape Premier Alan Winde has COVID-19. He shared the news on Twitter. Winde says that he's been isolating.
I experienced flu-like symptoms over the weekend. Isolated myself, went for a test on Monday, and just received the results being positive. I will now be isolating myself for the further 14 days, as is required. I am a type 2.
What the fuck just happened? Oh, no, okay. We're on number 4, number 3. We're on number 3. Let me skip ahead 10 seconds and we can.
On FM, online, and on your smart speaker. This is East Coast Radio. Newswatch.
People are buying.
Western Cape Premier Alan Winde has COVID-19. He's shared the news on Twitter. Winde says that he's been isolating.
I experienced some flu-like symptoms over the weekend, isolated myself, went for a test on Monday, and just received the results being positive. I will now be isolating myself for the further 14 days, as is required. I am a type 2 diabetic, which means that I must also be extra vigilant. And it's the message that we send to everybody in this province. When you have a comorbidity, please, you must be extra vigilant during this time.
Messages of condolences are streaming in following the passing away of KZN ANC spokesperson Ricardo Mthembu. The former Guadubuza mayor died of COVID-19 complications earlier today. Newswatch's Mishera Sithiel reports.
Newswatch understands Mthembu was admitted to a North Coast hospital several days ago. He's said to have lost his battle while in ICU. The DA's KZN leader Zwakele Mwango has sent condolences to his family and says Mthembu was a man who understood democracy.
Mvelase was one of the selfless leaders we had in our province. All we can say now, rest in peace, Mvelase.
Mthembu was a member of the provincial legislature. The IFP says it's shocked and saddened by his passing. Party leader Velenkosini Hlabisa has described him as a sociable and friendly character who was progressive through his contributions in the legislature. Nomusa Pungula from the Office of the Speaker says legislature has been hit hard as Mthembu had nearly a decade's experience in local government.
He came and joined us at the beginning of the 6th term. We had high hopes that we will continue with him the work of oversight, but of course it was not to be.
Mthembu has been serving as the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Corporate Governance and Traditional Affairs. Nashera Suthial, East Coast Radio Newswatch, Durban.
And Johnny Depp's told a UK court that his ex-wife Amber Heard's allegations of domestic violence were a hoax that she planned for several years. The actor is continuing to give evidence on the second day of his libel trial against the Sun newspaper over an article it carried labeling him a wife beater. He denies the accusations and has called the actress's claims as an insurance policy against him. Sky's Adele Robinson is at the High Court.
He was also asked about an incident during which Amber Heard claimed that she'd laughed at him and he'd then slapped her 3 times around the face, then came to his senses, apologised, and cried.
I'm not condoning anything. Just hold on.
Not true. Affairs. Nashera Suthial, East Coast Radio News Watch,
Okay, I
Durban.
skipped it back too far, but I gotta hear this again.
And Johnny Depp's told a UK court that his ex-wife Amber Heard's allegations of domestic violence were a hoax that she planned for several years. The actor is continuing to give evidence on the second day of his libel trial against the Sun newspaper over an article it carried labeling him a wife beater. He denies the accusations and has called the actress's claims as an insurance policy against him. Sky's Adele Robinson is at the High Court.
He was also asked about an incident during which Amber Heard claimed that she'd laughed at him and he'd then slapped her 3 times around the face, then came to his senses, apologized and cried. He said that was patently not true.
He cried? Whoa, hold on. What did you just say?
Top story at 3.
Did he cry?
He was also asked about an incident during which Amber Heard claimed that she'd laughed at him and he'd then slapped her 3 times around the face, then came to his senses, apologized and cried. He said that was patently not true.
Isn't it so strange of a story?
Top story at 3. Western Cape Premier Ellen Windy has tested positive for COVID-19. More news at 4 o'clock.
Being slapped in the face.
On FM, on the station app, and on DSTV channel 836. This East Coast Radio. News Watch.
Being slapped in the face, you're trying to equate to some of the things
Messages of condolences are streaming in following the passing away of KZN ANC spokesperson Ricardo Mthembu from COVID-19 complications. Newswatch understands Mthembu was admitted to a North Coast hospital several days ago. The former Odubuza mayor is said to have died in ICU earlier today. The DA's KZN leader Zwakele Mngqongo says Mthembu was a man who understood democracy.
And also pass our condolences to his political family, the ANC. Mvelase was one of the selfless leaders we had in our province. All we can say now, rest in peace, Mvelase.
President Cyril Ramaphosa says while the continent has lower rates of COVID-19 infection compared to other parts of the world, our weak health systems may result in long-term impact of the pandemic on Africa being severe.
The African Union has developed a COVID-19 strategy, and as part of that, it has established an AU COVID-19 response fund to assist member states in funding an effective response to the pandemic.
Yeah, but how much of this money are you going to be stealing, bro?
He was speaking at the International Labour Organization's Global Summit on COVID-19, whose focus this time is...
Hey, hold on, this is South Africa. Why are we listening to Johnny Depp Hollywood show? Hold on, you got me with that one.
Says they launched the African Medical Supplies Platform last month.
An innovation that will enable all countries on the continent to procure much needed supplies in a much faster manner and competitive pricing. We are also engaged with international partners and institutions to mobilize substantial stimulus packages to assist African countries to rebuild their economies.
And Donald Trump says he's considering banning the popular video sharing app TikTok as a way to punish China over the coronavirus pandemic. The US president has blamed the spread of COVID-19 on poor management and a lack of transparency in China. Beijing has rejected the allegation. This comes a day after Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said the US government was looking at banning Chinese apps over espionage concerns. TikTok, which is owned by a Chinese firm, is estimated to have close to 1 billion users worldwide. It has consistently stressed it doesn't share user information with the Chinese government. Last month, thousands of teenage TikTok users are said to have ruined Trump's rally in Oklahoma by registering for the event with the intention of not showing up. It resulted in very low numbers at the rally. Your top story this hour, messages of condolences are streaming in following the passing away of KZN ANC spokesperson and...
So there was some on the radio, I don't remember if I was screaming or not.
But the guy said there's no, so it's not, once you give an application permission, what did he say? This might have been like not that long ago. It's not malware doing something to your phone. It's an app doing so. You gave it permission to do it. If that company, any company that whoever made your phone and any company that writes software, once you give it certain permissions, it can do whatever it wants to your phone. You're worried about Huawei making the antennas and shit. That shit means nothing. They're talking about Chinese government using apps to spy on you. Well, has the NSA, Apple, and Google, all these people already been caught spying with or without the Chinese government's intervention? Now, TikTok is technically correct for a couple different reasons, but there wouldn't have been any reason to give user data, if they collect any, to the Chinese government. But it's not. It only is based out of Beijing as of last night. It used to be based out of Hong Kong. So there's a whole bunch of weird shit happening that nobody... See, even the South African news didn't mention that. CRI did, and fucking the news here didn't this morning. Bastards. You all want to talk two different ways to the middle. Yeah, and that's the other thing. Why would the Chinese government spy on you as an individual? They got 1.5 billion people to watch. They would be more interested in what you might consider like industrial, commercial, or... what's the word for war? Like national and like defense intelligence, like the DIA that the U.S. has the defense. And that's why the U.S. government is so fucking paranoid. They spy on everybody.
FM on the station app and on BSTV channel 836. This is East Coast Radio. Newswatch.
This thing here's a different company. I think this is worse.
President Cyril Ramaphosa says while the continent has lower rates of COVID-19 infection compared to other parts of the world, our weak health systems may result in the long-term impact of the pandemic on Africa being severe.
The African Union has developed a COVID-19 strategy, and as part of that, it has established an AU COVID-19 response fund to assist member states in funding an effective response to the pandemic.
He was speaking at the International Labour Organization's Global Summit on COVID-19, whose focus this time is building a better future of work. He says they've launched the Africa Medical Supplies Platform last month.
An innovation that will enable all countries on the continent to procure much needed supplies in a much faster manner and competitive pricing. We're also engaged with international partners and institutions to mobilize substantial stimulus packages to assist African countries to rebuild their economies.
Please be advised, sensitive listeners might find the following story upsetting.
It could be really bad.
Basic Education Minister Angie Motshekga wants swift action to be taken against the 17-year-old teenager accused of raping a primary school girl in the KZN Midlands. It's understood the 12-year-old grade 7 pupil was turned back at her Bulwer School's COVID-19 screening point because she'd forgotten her mask at home. The child is said to have told the principal that she was raped when she returned to school. The suspect was arrested yesterday. The minister's spokesperson, Terence Kala, says the incident shines a light on the scourge of gender-based violence.
The minister has called for an end to gender-based violence. The minister commends the swift action that has been taken by the SAPS in apprehending a 17-year-old suspect and the seriousness with which they have been handling this case. The department will continue to ensure that the learner, who is a minor, receives the necessary psychosocial support from the District Auxiliary Support Services, and as well as her identity being protected as she comes to terms with this painful and regrettable ordeal.
Say that again, you mother. I know you have to be politically correct, but I really want to hear what he just said.
Ensure that the learner, who is a minor, PS in apprehending a 17-year-old suspect and the seriousness with which they have been handling this case. The department will continue to ensure that the learner, who is a minor, receives the necessary psychosocial support from the District Auxiliary Support Services, and as well as her identity being protected as she comes to terms with this painful and regrettable ordeal.
And Zimbabwe's health minister has been sacked after being implicated in corruption involving COVID-19 testing. Obadiah Moyo is accused of awarding a $20 million contract to a Hungarian company based in Dubai and created just 2 months ago. The tender was for the supply of personal protective equipment and coronavirus test kits. He was arrested last month following a probe by the country's anti-graft commission. He also faces charges in 2 other cases, which date back to last year, for the supply of general medical equipment to public hospitals. Your top story at 1, President Cyril Ramaphosa says while the continent has lower rates of COVID-19 infection compared to other parts of the world, our weak health systems may result in the long-term impact of the pandemic on Africa being severe. Log on to ecr.co.za for more local and international news. and 2 other cases, which date back to last year, for the supply of general medical equipment to public hospitals. Your top story at 1, President Cyril Ramaphosa says while the continent has lower rates of COVID-19 infection compared to other parts of the world, our weak health systems may result in the long-term impact of the pandemic on Africa being severe. Log on to ecr.co.za for more local and international news.
What did I think I heard that I had that? What? That's all she said?
On FM, online, and on your smart speaker, this is East Coast Radio. Newswatch.
Basic Education Minister Anzimu Motshekga wants swift action to be taken against the 17-year-old teenager accused of raping a primary school girl in the KZN Midlands.
You didn't give a warning this time.
7 pupil was turned back at her Bulwer School's COVID-19 screening point because she'd forgotten her mask at home. The child is said to have told the principal that she was raped when she returned to school. The suspect was arrested yesterday and is due in court soon. The minister's spokesperson, Terence Kala, says the incident shines a light on the scourge of gender-based violence.
The minister has called for an end to gender-based violence. The minister commends the swift action that has been taken by the SAPS in apprehending a 17-year-old suspect and the seriousness with which they have been handling this case. The department will continue to ensure that the learner, who is a minor, receives the necessary psychosocial support from the District Auxiliary Support Services, and as well as her identity being protected as she comes to terms with this painful and regrettable ordeal.
31 minutes, 36 seconds.
MTN says the theft of cell phone tower batteries doesn't only cost the company a lot of money, but has other consequences. It's been commenting following the arrest of 2 suspects in Verulam yesterday who were found in possession of 4 batteries said to cost 30,000 Rand each. The men are believed to be behind other cell phone tower thefts. The mobile giant's Liam Chetty.
However, it is important to note that these batteries are essential in keeping our networks operational during power interruptions. When these batteries are stolen, many South Africans are left without access to network services, which impacts on their access to emergency services, effective business operations, and connecting with loved ones. Despite a fall in the number of theft incidences towards the end of last year, increased incidences of theft and damage early in 2020 shows the battle is far from over.
Torrential rain has pounded central Japan as the death toll from the floods in the south of the country mounts.
Support from the District Auxiliary Support Services.
Oh, shit. I know, I'm supposed to use a cough button on me and let the thing keep playing, right? We don't have that set up here.
Services, and as well as her identity being protected as she comes to terms with this painful and regrettable ordeal.
Jesus.
MTN says the theft of cell phone tower batteries doesn't only cost the company a lot of money, but has other consequences. It's been commenting following the arrest of 2 suspects in Verulam yesterday who were found in possession of 4 batteries said to cost 30,000 Rand each. The men are believed to be behind other cell phone tower thefts. The mobile giant's Liam Chetty.
However, it is important to note that these batteries are essential in keeping our networks operational during power interruptions. When these batteries are stolen, many South Africans are left without access to network services, which impacts on their access to emergency services, effective business operations, and connecting with loved ones. Despite a fall in the number of theft incidences towards the end of last year, increased incidences of theft and damage early in 2020 shows the battle is far from over.
Torrential rain has pounded central Japan as the death toll from the floods in the south of the country mounts. The downpours that began early Saturday on the southern island of Kyushu have already caused widespread damage, with rivers bursting their banks and hillsides collapsing. The government says there have been 53 deaths, with 5 more awaiting confirmation. More than a dozen people are still missing, and over 80,000 rescue workers are continuing search and rescue efforts. The weather front has moved north, and the Japan Meteorological Agency has warned an unprecedented level of rain for parts of central Japan can be expected. And gold today reached above $1,800 an ounce for the first time since 2011. It hit $1,800.86 an ounce this morning on the London bullion market, as the weaker dollar also makes
You're in Africa, you're just digging out the ground. What the fuck are you talking about? 1,800 American dollar. What's an American dollar to an African?
21 this afternoon, Pietermaritzburg 19, Richards Bay 22. Your top story at 12, Basic Education Minister Anzimu Motshekga wants swift action to be taken against the 17-year-old teenager accused he is a bit of a surprise. Durban 21 this afternoon, Pietermaritzburg 19, Richards Bay 22. Your top story at 12, Basic Education Minister Andrew Motshekga wants swift action to be taken against the 17-year-old teenager accused of raping a primary school girl in Bulwer in the Midlands. More news at 1 o'clock.
The side of the world keeps me hot on.
Tando Wetu, East Coast Radio.
So, what's it today? Week 15. I've had 15 days worth of no food because I'm doing something called the Master Cleanse. It's my first time doing it. It's my 4th time doing it. The longest I've done it going without chewing is 28 days.
Can I have your food?
So everybody's been very
Can I please have your
fascinated
food?
that I can actually go 15 days without food.
Yeah,
And
can I have your food?
we started talking about the most extreme things you've ever done to lose weight. This is in no way teaching people how to starve themselves, but it just shows that when you are desperate to lose weight, the lengths you will go to. We want to know about it on 0617929495. The most extreme diet you've ever gone on. And tell us, did it work? Like Marwan, for instance, is also called the Beyonce diet. It consists of maple syrup, cayenne pepper, and I'll leave out the last ingredient because I'm not trying to promote it. The most disgusting thing about it is doing the salt water flush in the morning, which is a liter of water, 2 teaspoons of pink Himalayan salt. It is so distant. It's also called the Beyonce diet. It consists of maple syrup, cake, ever gone on. And tell us, did it work? Like Marwan, for instance, is also called the Beyonce diet. It consists of maple syrup, cayenne pepper, and I'll leave out the last ingredient because I'm not trying to promote it. The most disgusting thing about it is doing the salt water flush in the morning, which is a liter of water, 2 teaspoons of pink Himalayan salt. It is so disgusting. What I love about this and why I'm doing it now, the mental clarity. When I come out of this thing, the world looks different. For me, the weight
It
loss
says
is just
I wrapped my body in cling film before
But I love the
exercising.
mental clarity, and that's why I wanted to do it again. So tell me the most extreme diets you've done.
It doesn't say
Did it work?
Beyonce diet or pig salt.
617929495. Let's see what.
It says-
Yes, hi, Sandaleku. Good morning. How are you? I'm good. I'm good. Tell me what you did, my baby.
Okay, I used cling wrap and black bags. It was a combination. So I had a problem area in my thighs and my stomach. So I literally wrapped cling wrap around my thighs and stomach and put a black bag over and started like high intensity workouts. It was great. I lost a lot of weight, but I almost fainted this one time. It's very extreme.
What the fuck did she?
Yes, hi, Sandaleku.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Tell me what you did, my baby.
Okay, I used cling wrap and black bags. It was a combination. So I had a problem area in my
See, that right there is
thighs.
what I'm
Morning,
missing.
how
are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Tell me what you did, my baby.
Okay, I used cling wrap and black bags. It was a combination. So I had a problem area in my thighs and my stomach. So I literally wrapped cling wrap around my thighs and stomach and put a black bag over and started like high intensity workouts. It was great. I lost a lot lot of weight, but I almost fainted this one time. It's
I know
very
because my
extreme.
clothes breathe and I smell bad. Okay, I would smell worse if I
Would
was
you do
wrapped
it
in
again?
plastic. I would smell a lot worse. Why do I wear
But I
plastic
don't
clothes?
recommend it. I would. It worked. But like I almost fainted. Desperate times. Desperate times.
I don't see how that works.
Desperate times. Thank you so much, my honey.
Okay, only a pleasure. Bye.
Oh, wow. Sia says, I went to the dentist and asked them to wire my teeth shut. She did that. Guess what? I used to crave for junk food, sweets, and chocolate, and I would push them between my teeth and swallow. Whoa. My aim for tying my teeth was only
I'm
to
sorry,
liquid diet,
but
but not
I'm hearing things that.
Okay, only a pleasure. Bye.
Oh, wow. Sia says, I went to the dentist and asked them to wire my teeth shut.
Oh.
She did that. Guess what? I used to crave for junk food, sweets, and chocolate, and I would push them between my teeth and swallow. Whoa. My aim for tying my teeth was only to liquid diet, but
Okay, so just I heard. No, so you don't understand. When I replayed it, I heard very clearly that she went to the dentist basically on purpose to get her teeth wired shut. When I heard she was still shoving stuff through her teeth, I thought, why were her teeth wired shut? That was the part that didn't make sense. No, this is crazy. People are fucking crazy, eh? I know somebody that had their jaw wired shut and couldn't wait to get the shit out. Like, I don't understand why you would do that on purpose. This says when it says I've wrapped my body in cling film before exercising, that sounds much better than what she said. And I'm confused. How come you're in Africa, you don't have good phones? I'm very confused. Okay, maybe not the best of everything all the fucking time. I don't expect perfect service all day. I only have 3 bars, you fucking pricks. Yeah, first world problem. The machine is only giving out hundreds, and I only have $99 in change. That is a serious first world problem, right? Oh, so you don't have to spend no money till tomorrow? Nobody can get no money out of you till tomorrow? Oh, damn. No sympathy for nobody, eh? Not around here. It's right in between shit and
Not
syphilis in the
solid,
dictionary.
solid, sorry, so that I can lose weight. So clearly see how you pushing pieces of chicken through there. It didn't work.
Hi, ECR. The most extreme diet I've ever done is actually a 7-day water fast where you have nothing besides water for 7 days. So I found it very successful and I felt incredible afterwards. Unfortunately, due to bad habits, I did gain the weight back, but I am embarking on a second water fast soon, as I feel it's got lots of health benefits as well.
I've been so scared to do a water fast, Nikki.
Yeah, because it doesn't work.
Turned over to weekdays, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. East Coast Radio.
Some of these are ridiculous coming up.
On FM, on the station app, and on DSTV channel 836. This is East Coast Radio. Newswatch.
National Mobile Network Operator MTN says the theft of cell phone tower batteries and security costs continue to dig deeper into the pockets.
Oh, no, you did not. You see, hear that acronym again.
This is East Coast Radio. Newswatch.
National Mobile Network Operator MTN says the theft of cell phone tower batteries and security costs continue to dig deeper into their pockets. This after 2 suspects were arrested in Verulam yesterday in possession of 4 tower batteries worth 30,000 rands each. It's alleged the men aged 33 and 34 broke into other cell phone towers before the court. MTN's Leanne Chetty says the battle against cell phone tower battery theft is one that's far from over.
However, it is important to note that these batteries are essential in keeping our networks operational during power interruptions. When these batteries are stolen, many South Africans are left without access to network services, which impacts on their access to emergency services, effective business operations, and connecting with loved ones. Despite a fall in the number of theft incidences towards the end of last year, increased incidences of theft and damage early in 2020 shows the battle is far from over.
The 2 suspects are expected to appear in court soon. The Netogen Hostel Organization is calling on KZN Health to urgently conduct COVID-19 mass testing at Thokoza Women's Hostel in Durban. This after 2 women died at the hostel this weekend, allegedly due to COVID-19 related complications. One elderly woman was found dead by her room, while the other died a day later in the hospital. Uvalibala Hostel, that represent residents living in Durban's 10 hostels, says that they were aware of the COVID-19 patients living at the hostel. Spokesperson Mvuzo Ntombela says out of the 10 hostel dwellers that tested positive initially, 8 are still living at the hostel.
So if our government can help Thokoza residents with PPEs and make sure that everyone at Thokoza get tested for COVID-19, I think that also can help the government to know like how many people he needs to quarantine, how many are safe, so everyone at Thokoza can be safe because there are kids who are living there.
He says the virus could easily spread among the dwellers considering the living conditions.
There is an issue of overcrowding at Thokoza Women's Hostel. Some people are sleeping on passages and some are 10, 8 in a room, so there is no social distancing at Thokoza Women's Hostel.
And rapper Kanye West is insisting he's entering the race to become the next US president in order to win it.
I don't care. We're
Sound over to East Coast Radio.
Today we're talking about making drastic changes. Should you run it by your partner? Like if your partner decided he wanted a face tattoo, stuff like that. Drastic changes.
Face tattoo.
You can tell me an 06179294995.
There's worse tattoos and pictures taken care of. And then there's sex changes and shit. You don't want to be surprised.
So no, I don't think I have to run past anyone if I need to make any changes in my life, unless I'm married, which I'm not.
Are you Somali or Australian?
I love my rules. Thank you.
You got like blonde dreadlocks, don't you?
I don't think it's necessary to ask for permission, but one thing I know, once a man actually changes his or her, whatever style is he is she changing, you must know she or he is trying to impress someone else, not you.
Okay, all right, I didn't know that. All right.
How? In certain instances, sometimes it's just easier to ask for forgiveness than ask for permission.
Oh, so let me tell you what happened, right? A couple of years ago, my brother broke up with his girlfriend that he'd been with for 4 years because she woke up one day and decided wigs and weaves were not for her. And his whole thing was, but that's the type of woman I'm attracted to.
The wig.
You know, there was a lot of conversation about
Okay,
that.
you know what?
For so long, he should be.
This is dumb shit. The wig and the part you could just take to the shop and change for $50 is the woman you want to.
You're serious? That's fucking crazy. Why can you not just give me a simple fucking why? What was wrong with Windows Media Player in the first goddamn place? Oh, it's not playing anymore. What is this speaker notification thing? Oh dear, what are we doing? Can I do? Oh, what if I press play? Are you gonna work? No, you're never gonna work again because you're done. There's like COVID.
Sound over to East Coast Radio.
Today we're talking about making drastic changes. Should you run it by your partner? Like if your partner decided he wanted a face tattoo, stuff like that. Drastic changes. You can tell me an 06179294995.
What up, Miss Ghost? Gift, find some. So no, I don't think I have to run past anyone if I need to make any changes in my life, unless I'm married, which I'm not. So, I love my rules. Thank you.
Hello, Tenderloin. I don't think it's necessary to ask for permission, but one thing I know, once a man actually changes his or her, whatever style is he is she changing, you must know she or he is trying to impress someone else, not you.
Okay, all right, I didn't know that. All right.
That's it. If I ever say African accent, I can't put a name to it. That's the one I'm talking about.
Sometimes it's just easier to ask for forgiveness than ask for permission.
Oh, so let me tell you what happened, right? A couple of years ago, my brother broke up with his girlfriend that he'd been with for 4 years because she woke up one day and decided wigs and weaves were not for her. And his whole thing was, but that's the type of woman I'm attracted to. You know, there was a lot of conversation about they've been together for so long. He should have fallen in love with her soul and the person that she is. But for him, he said, listen, it is my preference. When I see my future wife, I see in a certain way. She should have run it by me. So we've heard from the guys, ladies, do you think you need to run it by your partner if you want to make a drastic change about your appearance? Tell me. We have Kaja on the line. Good morning, Kaja, and welcome to East Coast Radio.
Hi, how good?
I am fantastic. Thank you very much for taking out some time to speak to us. So do you think it's important to ask your partner for permission or run it by them before you make a drastic change? And has this happened to you?
Yes, I think it's going to affect them, especially like other person was saying that if it's like a sex change or anything, I think it's important.
Yo, I did not listen to this first. Hold on. Frederick, did you just literally say?
and then somewhere along the line they decide, well, start having surgeries, and they change everything. So I mean, that affects you.
The fuck did you just?
So yeah, people information, but
It's
really looking up for them, going to affect them, especially
to ask your partner for permission or run it by them before you make a drastic change? And has this happened to you?
Yes, I think it's going to affect them, especially like other person was saying that if it's like a sex change or anything, I think it's important. Or I mean, it's going to affect them. I mean, imagine dating somebody who identifies as a female, and then somewhere along the line they decide, well, start having surgeries, and they change everything. So I mean, that affects you. That affects how you die. But so yeah, good information, but it's really looking up for them, because I think it's highlighted. So yeah, I think it's important.
So, Jaja, have you had to go through any changes that you told your partner about? Any drastic changes?
Yes, definitely. Before each and every change, I've had to say.
Oh, sorry. So you're actually trans?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
What the fuck did you just say?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had
changes that you told your partner about. Any drastic changes?
Yes, definitely. Before each and every change, I've had to say.
Oh, sorry. So you're actually trans? Changes that you told your partner about. Any drastic changes?
Yes, definitely. Before each and every change, I've had to say.
Oh, sorry. So you're actually trans?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
They cut some molecule.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had to say, well, listen, I'm starting hormones. This and this is going to change. I'm having this sort of surgery, and this is what it means. So each and every step I've had to say, this is going to happen. And it was then up to them to say, well, I can't really be, or, okay, that's cool. And then we go ahead. So, I think...
Have you had like anybody who said to you, this is not for me, I can't do this?
For sure. And it was okay. It was okay. That's why I was saying it in the first place. Because I was giving them a chance to say, can I do this? I mean, it doesn't mean that they love me any less, but it just means, I mean, this is what they prefer. So I have to give the person a chance to say, I'm in full support, but I can't really be with you. Or, yes, I'm in all the way.
Jaja, how much longer before you have like a total transition?
3 years.
3 more years.
Yes.
Wow.
It's like a payment plan.
Well, we can't wait to see the end result, my darling, and please keep us updated on your journey.
Definitely. Thank you so much.
There are so many people out here who are not who haven't accepted their true selves. And what you're doing is so courageous. I am in awe of your bravery.
Thank you, Tadanacho.
You have a wonderful day.
My greatest freaking assassin type sharpshooter.
My opinion is yes, you should ask your partner for permission if you're going to have a drastic change. Reason being is, women, they fall for what they see. Women, we fall for their potential. That's just my 2 cents. So yeah.
I'll take that to sense, my love. Thank
reason being is.
Morning, Tando.
You do understand being and is.
You should ask your partner for permission if you're going to have a drastic change. Reason being is, women, they fall for what they see. Women, we fall for their potential. That's just my 2 cents. So yeah.
That's why I sort of stay scruffy
I'll
on
take
purpose.
that to sense, my love. Thank you.
Morning, Tando.
Fix 'em up and clean 'em up.
With
I was all
regards
clean and
to
fresh.
getting permission from your partner,
They'd be
I don't
like,
think
oh,
it
there's no
really
improvement
is
on that. That's
permission.
what
It's more of a
Somebody
matter of
tried.
respect of discussing it with them, considering their opinion, and then taking that into consideration. So the decision is still yours, but you're respecting what your partner thinks and doing something without
You've been way too
shocking
diplomatic.
them.
You can tell you.
Tando to weekdays, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. East Coast Radio.
Apartheid survivors in the same fucking cities. Oh, please freeze up when I say anything controversial, you piece of shit.
You with Lisa Welsh on East Coast Radio.
Hello, Lisa Welsh. Welcome to episode 2 of Finding You, a daring journey of radical self-love. Have you ever felt ashamed of your body? Silly question, right? I certainly have. If I count the hours that I've spent getting ashamed of my body, I've wasted days. Not as a researcher describes it as
You're a Nazi sympathizing goof piece of shit. You're a sympathizing goof piece of shit. You're a Nazi 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 sympathizing goof piece of shit. Seriously? It always takes 90 seconds to play. By the way, how is it further along in the track than the track is long? Yeah, they do have Nazis and apartheid survivors in the same fucking city. I don't care if you like it, officer. Oh, here we go with the 8-second delay. Yeah, okay. I'm not listening to this bullshit. And I'm not going to tell anybody else to either. No, that's the fucking white supremacist bullshit you shove down our fucking throats. Oh, it's sort of kind of Buddhist and Indian / Punjabi / Hindu. You don't even know the difference between languages and countries. It is not whatsoever First Nations, right? Fuck you. You're a Nazi sympathizing goof piece of shit. You're a Nazi sympathizing goof piece of shit. You're a Nazi sympathizing goof piece of shit. I can't put my finger on what you're trying to shove down indigenous kids' throats. I think I just nailed it. What did you do to me? Finding You with Lisa fucking whatever. Her name is fucking Welsh. You can't get more white than the word Welsh, homeboy. That is the white of whiteness and where white supremacism comes from. Like, you need a fake name to get on the radio, remember? They picked the... Jesus Christ. Oh, it only went 82 seconds in before it stopped, dude. That's wonderful. I literally repeated that about 40 fucking times before it fucking stopped. Right. That's normal. That's totally normal. We're not doing anything till I get back the clock, till this 8-second delay disappears. And I get back that bar. I'm not fucking moving. That was sweet, eh? Okay, so that's my range of motion. So when was I over here? Okay, well, I don't know. That's what you just showed me. I just fucking hurt my knee leaning that far, so I know I couldn't have done that. I keep proving that to myself by injuring myself to see if I can get into the same positions to line it up with the pictures they're showing me. They can't interfere in the outward feed from here. They can only dump shit that I can see. They can, however, do whatever they want to the file once it's uploaded. So, yeah, like stripping the audio. No, you never do that. Okay, what the fuck? The same doubled up files here. Oh, I'm not clicking on that though. No, I refuse. That's interesting. Yeah, fine. I'll just go from here.
On FM, online, and on your smart speaker, this is East Coast Radio. Newswatch.
The Ethiopian Hostel Organization is calling on KZN Health to urgently conduct COVID-19 mass testing at Thokoza Women's Hostel in Durban. This after 2 women died at the hostel this weekend, allegedly due to COVID-19 related complications. One elderly woman was found dead by her roommate, while the other died a day later in hospital. Ubonye Bama Hostela, that represents residents living in Durban's 10 hostels, says that they had been aware of the COVID-19 positive individuals living at the hostel. Spokesperson Mvuzo Ntombela says out of the 10 hostel dwellers that tested positive initially, 8 are still living at the hostel.
So if our government can help Thokoza residents with PPEs and make sure that everyone at Thokoza get tested for COVID-19, I think that also can help the government to to know like how many people he needs to quarantine, how many are safe, so everyone at Towaza can be safe because there are kids who are living there.
Mvozo says the virus could easily spread among the dwellers considering the living conditions.
There is an issue of overcrowding at Towaza Women's Hostel. Some people are sleeping on passages and some are in 8 in a room, so there is no social distancing at Towaza Women's Hostel.
KZN's Department of Health says it's still investigating the incident. 13 people have been injured after the minibus taxi crashed into a wall along Winston Road in Pietermaritzburg. Authorities will be investigating the cause of the crash and prior events that caused the driver to lose control. Netcare 911 responded to the scene along with firefighters, where jaws of life had to be used to free the occupants. The medical services, Sean Herbst.
Medics assessed the scene and found that 13 people had a minor to moderate injury. All the patients were treated on scene and once stabilized were transported by various ambulance services to a hospital for further treatment.
And Kenyan schools are to remain closed until 2021 due to the COVID-19 virus. Final year exams that usually take place in October and November have also been cancelled. The Education Ministry in the African country also announced a decision that all pupils would have to repeat a year as all learning had been stopped since March. Colleges and universities, though, are expected to reopen in September with strict COVID-19 preventative measures in place. The top story, an eThekwini Hostel organization is calling on the KZN Health Department to urgently conduct COVID-19 mass testing at Towaza Women's Hostel in Durban following the death of 2 women allegedly from the virus. For Newswatch, I'm Steve.
South African Steve. I'm Congolese Frank.
KZN's #1 way to wake up. Darren, Kerry and Sky, East Coast Radio.
We're doing it differently. Normally we sit down and interview the man, but right now we have him live with us answering your questions. Professor Tulio de Oliveira from CRISP UKZN, virus hunter, informatician. Thank you so much for joining us on East Coast Radio.
Yes, thank you very much, and good morning everyone in Durban and KwaZulu-Natal.
Our first caller is Melissa. She has a question for you. Hi, Melissa.
Hi, Darren.
Hi, go ahead for Tulio.
Okay, my question is regarding asthma, okay? I know there's been a lot of research that says asthmatics are at higher risk, but my question is, if you have a child that's on a preventer and the asthma is quite well controlled, should you still be highly stressed about the virus, or can you kind
that
of
obsessed with acting white, you just copy every goddamn thing they tell you?
Good question. Prof?
Yes, thank you very much, Melissa. That's a very good question, yeah. And we normally get asked that question many times, yeah. So what the evidence say is that if a child or adult has well-controlled asthma, they have no increase of disease severity due to COVID-19. What it means? It means that they would be in the same risk as a normal person. So one thing that's very important at the moment, yeah, is that asthmatics should aim for excellent asthma control at this time, yeah. So that's a way that to avoid them to get complications from COVID, but also avoided anxiety, yeah, because you don't want to be running out of air because of asthma, yeah, and get worried that's COVID. So
I don't know what the deal is. Here's what I'm gonna do. Oh, for fuck's sake! Gotta be. I just gonna call you. Fuck, Jesus. So since that will not work, I'm just gonna download this and then play it. Or not. What the fuck? Oh, fuck. It's not impressive. It's not. This entire implement. Holy fuck! What the fuck just happened?